ladies and gentlemen, it is time for my latest edition of the Big 12 matchups and then some. This is when I highlight key Big 12 games as well as football games from across the country where I pick against the spread. We'll go over last week's results and we'll pick this week's games in just a second. First, though, we have to talk about the Texas at Nebraska game coming up this Saturday. Granted, because Texas has lost 2 games already this season, nationally, the game has lost some luster, so that's understandable. It's still an important game for both teams. For Texas to try to salvage their season, and of course for Nebraska to keep a clear path toward Glendale, Arizona, and the national championship. Texas will come in as a 9.5-point underdog, and again, they've lost 2 games. They've lost back-to-back games, UCLA, and then 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma. And Nebraska, undefeated. They also have a Heisman Trophy contender in quarterback Taylor Martinez. So why do I think this is going to be a better game than what some of the experts think? Well, first of all, you have to understand that Texas still has a pretty good defense. That part cannot be disputed. They're still good up front. They're physical. They're quick. And, of course, the secondary is still the best in the country. Aaron Williams, Curtis Brown, as well as Blake Gideon. It's still a hard-hitting, physical, fast defense, an experienced defense. It's not going to be the same defense that Nebraska faced against Kansas State last week, in which Nebraska had gaping holes and had guys wide open. That's not going to happen this week against Texas. The Longhorns, as a matter of fact, don't be surprised if you see them show man-to-man coverage, because I think Texas is going to feel that their secondary is that talented to where they're going to say, okay, Taylor Martinez, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to do it with your arm, because we're going to use the rest of our guys to stop you. And do I think that Martinez is going to have a 200-yard rushing game against Texas? I have a very difficult time envisioning that. I also have a difficult time envisioning Nebraska being able to open Mack truck holes. I just don't think that because of Texas's physicality that Nebraska is going to have those wide open holes and those wide open receivers that they had against Kansas State. Granted, Nebraska played a terrific game against the Wildcats a few days ago, but that was Kansas State. Texas, their defense is still pretty good. So that's one reason why I think this game is going to be better than a lot of people might realize. Number 2, Texas has had 2 weeks to heal up. That's always important. They've had more time to rest up for this game against Nebraska than Nebraska's had against Texas, because Nebraska has had 9 days. Okay, that's a lot of time to recover. But Texas, coming off that physical game against Oklahoma, the bye week comes at a perfect time for them. Number 3, preparation. If you've looked at Texas's track record coming off a loss to Oklahoma, keep in mind that Mack Brown is 6-7 lifetime against Oklahoma. Coming off a loss to Oklahoma, Texas over the years has played very well from the rest of that season on. And you have to give credit to Mack Brown. You have to give credit to that coaching staff as well, because they seem to find ways to adjust. But more importantly, that coaching staff seems to get their team focused back on the right track after losing to the Sooners. They seem to put that loss out of their misery, and they seem to play better football. So it's like the old saying, those who don't learn from history might be doomed to repeat it. I think in this particular case, that's true. So you can't undermine the coaching staff of the Longhorns. They generally get their team ready to play after a loss to Oklahoma. And number 4, Mack Brown's record against Nebraska, a perfect 3-0 in Lincoln. 1998, they snapped Nebraska's 7-year home winning streak. 2002, Texas pulls off a close win, and they did the same thing in 2006. Texas generally plays well away from Austin. So, yes, it does help Nebraska that they have home field advantage in this game, but home field advantage is not everything, and it definitely hasn't been when it comes to this game being played in Lincoln. Keep in mind that this will be the last time these two teams play for a very long time, of course, unless they meet again in the Big 12 championship game. And right now, the odds of that happening are not very good. Do I think Nebraska will win this game? I still pick the Huskers to win if both defenses play status quo. If you don't have any cheap scores by either team, I think it'd be something like 14-10, 17-10, a low-scoring, close game. I don't pick Texas to win because their offense still has a lot of question marks, especially when it comes to throwing downfield. And Garrett Gilbert's going to have to do that for Texas to pull off the upset. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on the Longhorn defense to come up with some scores or to come up with at least 3 turnovers in the game. But because Texas's defense is still athletic and still well coached and still very talented and experienced, I just don't see Nebraska having a mega offensive day from Taylor Martinez running the ball. I think Nebraska wins, but for my first lock, Texas plus the 9.5. By the way, the old coin, if it lands on heads, likes Nebraska, tails likes Texas, it likes Nebraska. So it's going to go against me this week. Once again, don't be surprised if the Texas-Nebraska game comes down to the fourth quarter. Well, last week I definitely did not get out of my slump. Came close, but not quite. 4-5-1 against the spread. The tie was the Arkansas A&M game, which Arkansas was favored by 7 and won by 7. The coin had an even rougher week, winning only 2 games, losing 7 and tying 1. So I take a 2-game lead against the coin after 6 weeks. There you can see the records: 32, 24, and 4 against the spread for me, and the coin documented 30, 26, and 4 against the spread. Let's get out of the slump, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for my picks. Let's go ahead and begin with a Thursday night game of the Big 12. Kansas State playing We just had an earthquake. We just had an earthquake. Well, there's always a first in life for just about everything, okay? You remember your first child. You can remember your first job. Well, I can honestly say that I will never, ever forget my first earthquake. Hopefully, it'll be the last, and thankfully, it only lasted a few seconds. And again, it was on tape, as you just saw. Only lasted about 15 seconds. We just found out, by the way, that the earthquake actually originated just 4 miles east of Norman, which essentially is about 4 miles east of this house. And 4.5 on the Richter scale. You can feel the earthquake as far west as Clinton, as far east as the Tulsa area. I just had a cousin from Tulsa just Facebooked me saying that it actually knocked one of her picture frames off of her wall. And this was in Tulsa where she felt the quake. So yeah, this was one that people are going to be talking about for a while, and hopefully it didn't do any significant damage anywhere else. It didn't do any significant damage or any damage at all here at this house. It just was that rumbling feeling that just catches you off guard. These things probably happen in California all the time, but in Oklahoma, this is just rare territory. But yeah, a little bit freaky, and it happened right during the taping of this show. Let's go ahead and real quickly go over the rest of the picks since we're low on time. Kansas State's at Kansas this Thursday night. Kansas is pathetic. I know K-State didn't look good against Nebraska, but Kansas State can rely on Daniel Thomas in the running attack. So give me Kansas State minus the 2.5. The coin, by the way, likes Kansas State as well. Saturday games, Oklahoma State at Texas Tech. The trend in this case has been that the home team wins. Oklahoma State, by the way, has not won in Lubbock since the 1940s. As good as Oklahoma State is, and even though Tech's lost twice, I'm going with the home team in this case. And I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I'm going to stick with the trend, minus the 3. The coin likes Oklahoma State. Missouri's at A&M. The Aggies are back at home. They lost last week to Arkansas, but played competitive. Missouri, undefeated, but Blaine Gabbert's not 100%, even though he'll play. Give me A&M minus the 2.5. The coin, by the way, likes Missouri. Baylor's at Colorado. Third week in a row, Baylor has been favored, even though they lost last week to Tech. I'm going to go with the home team. Colorado just plays much, much better at home than they do on the road. So Colorado minus the 1 in a virtual pick'em game. The coin likes Colorado too. Arkansas is at Auburn. Something is not right with Ryan Mallett. He's not lived up to expectations this season, and now you're asking him to try to win at Auburn. Good luck with that. Give me undefeated Auburn minus the 4 points, while the coin likes Arkansas. Ohio State at Wisconsin, what could be the game of the week. Ohio State, too good at quarterback, too good on the interiors. Even though it's in Madison, I will take Ohio State to cover the 4 against once beaten Wisconsin. The coin, by the way, likes Wisconsin. Iowa is at Michigan in another Big Ten game. We found out last week with Michigan when they play a good defense like Michigan State, Denard Robinson looked ordinary. He's going to look ordinary this week too because Iowa has a good D. So Iowa, I'll take the Hawkeyes minus the 3.5. The coin likes Iowa too. South Carolina at Kentucky. South Carolina just beat the #1 team in the country in Alabama. So why do I like Kentucky to cover? It's going to be very difficult for South Carolina to get jacked up to play at Kentucky. It's a dangerous spot for the Gamecocks, so give me the Wildcats plus the 5, and the coin likes South Carolina. And then finally, Oregon State at Washington. This is a very difficult game to pick. Oregon State coming off a big win at Arizona, but they're playing this one in Seattle. Another tough road challenge for the Beavers. I think Washington in this case is going to have just a little bit too much. It'll be close, but I'll take Washington plus the 1.5, while the coin likes Washington State as well. So that does it for my picks on an Earthquake Wednesday, and yeah, I do mean that literally. We'll catch you next week on the Big 12 matchups and then some.